Let's welcome our next speaker, Ryan Jarvis from Rock Energy. And the name of presentation, Introduction to OSDU.
Thank you very much. First of all, I have to give a lot of credit to all of you who have come from all over the world to be here in Kazakhstan this week. Incredible opportunity for all of us to collaborate. And you're going to hear that mentioned many times during this summit. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. This is how we get things done in the new world. Kudos to those organizers. So EPAM, S&P Global, and the Energy Ministry, thank you for hosting. It really is a lot of effort, even down to the translators who are in the booths. Thank you so much for all that you do to make this successful. Now, one of my favorite things is to engage the audience. So if you're out there, feel free to contribute and engage. The first thing I want to do is ask a question. I want to ask each of you, how many of you, by raise of hands, want to change the way you work with data? Raise your hand if you want to change. Okay, now, if you want to radically change the way you deal with data, raise your hand now. Okay, great. So those of you who have raised your hands, I want you to consider for a moment how you want to change the future, because perhaps we can change the future together. Now, my name is Ryan Jarvis. I have been in the energy industry over 20 years, all working for ExxonMobil. And the first half of my career, I spent working as a computational scientist. So working on the computer science side of ExxonMobil, setting up their infrastructure, their PKI environment to do network security and cross-platform authentication systems. I helped the development of mPower, which is basically a reservoir simulation for many years. And then I got stuck realizing how much I love rocks. And I went back to school and got a master's degree in geoscience and became a geoscientist at ExxonMobil. And I loved it. It was fantastic, searching for hydrocarbons all around the world. We worked in Argentina, Brazil, and Gulf of Mexico, finding the new and next plays in exploration. Now, the last 3 years at ExxonMobil, I've had the wonderful opportunity of working with the industry. So I was a subsurface data strategy advisor for ExxonMobil, leading the vision, the strategy, and the roadmap for the digital transformation of the upstream. And during that time, I gladly supported and backed OSDU. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. I've been privileged to give kind of an overview of OSDU for you today. Now, 2 weeks ago, I left ExxonMobil and I started my own company, Rock Energy. Why did I do that? Well, I realized how much fun it is to collaborate and to help operators basically realize billions of dollars of value through the digital transformation. So many opportunities. So I wanted to be in the game. And so that's why I'm here. I came to Kazakhstan to help you make sure that when you do your digital transformation, you can accelerate the things that are most valuable. Anyway, very, very important. Now, there is a tsunami of data coming at us, almost from every direction. We've got fiber optics down boreholes, and we've got 4D seismic monitoring capable of producing 800 gigabits per second. That's 6 terabytes per minute. How in the world are we going to handle all of that new data, let alone all the existing data that we already have? So it's critical that we do this together. The entire energy industry's future success depends on our ability to more fully leverage the tremendous untapped potential of our vast data. And it really depends on us. As we collaborate and lead in the space of what the digital transformation can be, we can realize the benefits. So I have three things I want to share with you today. The first is how we maximize value and sustainability through industry collaboration. We can get a lot done by working together. The second thing I want to share is OSDU. How does that make a difference? Why do we need to be a part of it? And then finally, I will invite all of you to join us. Join us in the vision of what we can do in the future. Now, I don't have this slide. Maybe it's here. Wonderful. So I don't know how many of you are familiar, but back in 1860 in the United States of America, there was a group of folks that decided that they had a great idea. It took 30 days or more to get mail from one side of the United States to the other. So from New York to California, you would pay 2 cents and your mail would get there a month later. The Pony Express was created because they said, we need messages to go faster. We can guarantee you can get it in 10 days. So what do? They charged 250 times the amount. So from 2 cents, they charged $5 for one letter. But you'd be guaranteed that that letter would get where it needed to be in 10 days. What an incredible model. But as you look at the model, consider all of the locations that are on this map. This looks much like many of our workflows. We have so many different locations and handovers across many people. So at the time, they decided to accelerate this journey by using horsemen, very talented horsemen that would carry the messages between town and town, and they would relay the messages to another horseman. And this has gone on for many, many years. Now, what's incredible about this story is we're about ready to do the same thing again, but with a digital transformation. This is what it looks like today. We've got all these handoffs of data, and we basically hand off all of our data and our workflows between each of the groups, but we can do better. We don't have to wait 10 days anymore, and we don't have to pay 250 times as much. We have an opportunity to change the way we work. So what is this opportunity? In speaking with many operators, Shell, Total, BP, Chevron, and others, we have come to find that there are 10 distinct motivations for why operators want to move to the cloud and want to use OSDU. I'm going to go through these with you, maybe the top 5 for sure, but I want you to realize that the digital transformation has already begun. OSDU stands for the Open Subsurface Data Universe, but now they don't even say that anymore because they've included surface. And so it's even bigger than it was when it started. And one of the cool features about it is it's open. It's open source. It's vendor agnostic. And it basically is in the cloud or on-prem, but it's basically, it's much more than just standards and definitions. It's real code. It's a code base that's being shared across the operators. Now, you may not realize this, but historically, operators have developed their own. They decided, I'm going to build my own data model. It'll be proprietary. Nobody else will be able to use it, and I'll build it in my company. And they did that. But one of the major problems or issues with that is it costs a lot of money to build your own data model and to support it. And then all the connectors. You have to connect every single application and tool to your data model that's proprietary. It's unsustainable. Then when you think about how many times that you copy or move data, you don't just have one copy. There are literally thousands of copies of the data that you have to try to manage and govern across multiple applications and tools. So the number one reason that companies, especially the operators, want OSDU is to maximize business value. They see the optimization of the data supply chain. So as you look at that big path that the Pony Express took, each of us have big paths that we have to take in order to get things done. Now, if you don't have to, it's a physics question, right? If you don't have to move or copy data, can you do things faster? Yes. So cycle time reductions, you can reduce by 83%, saving more time for the engineers and the geoscientists to be able to do their work. That value can be in the billions of dollars for each operator. And across the industry, it may even get as high as hundreds of billions of dollars. So it really is a huge opportunity for all of us. Now, it's not just about business value. The number one reason why they want this business value is to make better business decisions. But they don't want their business decisions stuck in one application or tool, because that's where they are today. They're in some disparate application or tool. We need it with the data. So the metadata that goes with the data has become just as important as the data itself. And I am the responsible party in OSDU. I lead a committee called the Business Decisions Committee of Core Concepts. I work with Shell and Equinor and Chevron and BP, and we have been trying to determine what data model we want to capture business decisions. Because if we can capture these business decisions in the platform, then any application or tool can see them and can interact with them. Now, this brings me to the next point, which is simplified governance. There are a lot of applications and tools out there. Today, each of them needs their own copy of data. We want the Netflix model. We want to stream data from the cloud or from our platform into any of the applications. But this is the kicker. This is really exciting because instead of putting all the burden on the people and the manual processes, we're going to try to contractually obligate data providers and application providers. We want them to honor the standards and definitions of OSDU, but also if they are putting data in the platform, we want it directly delivered. So this changes the way data is delivered. No longer do you get the Amazon, data at the doorstep in a box. You actually will be able to take the data and have it directly delivered to your cloud, properly formatted, ready to use in the applications. This can optimize your data supply chain. So critical simplified governance comes when we can have data governance roles in the cloud that allows anyone to see the data and specific people to stamp the data with trust. So the next item is trusted data. As part of the champions within OSDU, we created something called technical assurance. Technical assurance helps us define trusted data. It's what was missing from many of the cloud platforms in the past. Historically, many of the cloud platforms were called the data lake, right? Everyone puts your data in the lake. Well, the lake became a swamp because the data was hard to know which was good, which was bad. It was just your data moved, lifted, and shifted from where it was into the cloud. We needed something better. So trusted data allows you to distinguish which data is good and how it can be trusted. There are three things that trusted data needs. Number one, trusted data needs an identity so that you don't have duplicate data. So an identity is needed. Number two, trusted data needs to have a history. You need to know where it came from. Even today, many of our geoscientists and engineers, they'll look at the data and they don't want to use it because they don't trust it. They don't know where it came from. So trust requires that you know where the data came from. OSDU provides a lot of the opportunity for metadata to be stored with the data so that you know where it came from. And every single time it's updated, the versioning of that data is captured. So you can track where it was a year ago and where it is today. Finally, technical assurance, it helps us set the purpose of the data. That the data actually has a purpose. And SMEs or subject matter experts, they can come in and say, I trust this data. These are the 5 seismic volumes that you can use for DHI analysis. So now you don't have to look over 50 or 100. You can go just to the 5 that you need and get your workflow done. How does this help artificial intelligence? It helps in a big way because all of the metadata will be stored in the system so that AI tools, even augmented AI, can access the trusted data. And this is all to tie collections of trusted data, which may be heterogeneous. There may be well data, there may be production data, there may be seismic data. You can get collections of data and say, this is the collection of data that was used to make this business decision. And now your companies will have line of sight to the data that helps them make better business decisions. So like has been said by Philip and by Nathan and others, as we get this ecosystem built and all the applications are compatible, usability is now no longer a problem because people don't have to move or copy data anymore. They can just do their work. So it's much more than just data and definitions. This is the new way of working that we can do together as an industry. And Kazakhstan can lead in the industry on what good looks like. So can you still compete in this world? Yes, absolutely you can still compete. OSDU is built so that all of the structures, the framework is shared. This is so a regulatory body like the government, they can require that the data is delivered to them. Well, instead of spending 6 months and many people's effort to gather the files and to give them to the government, you can just give them entitlements to your cloud and the government can access the data anytime they want. That changes the way that they access data. So this fundamental underpinning of OSDU providing a platform of standards and best practices is critical. And that's what we can all build together. Now, your data is proprietary. Your data and your workflows may be something that you want to keep a secret, or it's something that gives you a competitive advantage. OSDU allows you to operate that competitive advantage on top of the standards. So you don't have to give everyone your data when you go to OSDU. I think I heard one of the questions yesterday was, if I go to OSDU, does that mean everyone can see my data? No, that's not true. It's secure. It has all the best technologies of how we secure data so that you can keep it the way you want to keep it and only share it with those who you want to share it with. Now, is this a new thing? No, it's not new. OSDU has been around for a while. In 2018, 8 operators got together and decided that it was ridiculous that they were doing it on their own, that they should just share their data models. And it was Shell that was really leading the case. And they donated their entire subsurface data model and said, here's our data model, build upon it. We don't want to maintain it. We don't want to sustain it anymore. We want to work with the industry. All the other operators realized that this was the next wave. We had to become more sustainable, able to allow the industry to help us support our abilities. If we did that all in-house, it would be too expensive. So OSDU helps us share costs for this data foundation. That is critical. So just imagine for a moment, and I'm going to give you fake numbers, but imagine for a moment that if you were to do this internally, it would cost you $4 billion. That's a lot of money, but you could get OSDU built inside your own company, but it would be just basically proprietary. Now, if you do this as an industry, how much do you think it would cost to be able to have the exact same thing, but now shared across operators? I would think it'd be much, much less. In fact, maybe in the millions to hundreds of millions of dollars rather than in the billions. This is very enticing for the operators that they can basically invest a small portion, but get a huge amount of benefit. So consider that. Now, it's not just about data. It's about the metadata tracked across the entire life cycle of the data. Everything is immutable, meaning once you put it into OSDU, it's in there for good. You can get new versions of it. So like many application developers with source control, OSDU is source control for all of the data. You can see the history, you can understand where it's been, and you can enrich it. So this is just a view that OSDU data intends to come directly from the data providers, and here we even have applications, and capturing all of the different pieces that are part of your workflows, even to the end, so that you can access the data and know where it is. It makes it much more discoverable that way. So who's involved with OSDU? There's over 224 companies right now today that are members of OSDU. This is fantastic. We want more. So the opportunity is for all of us to look at how we can become involved. Now, many of these companies are just joining so they can see. They're just joining so that they can take a look. They're not in the meetings very often, but they're there because they know at some point they need to jump in, and they want to know when to jump. So even if you're not in OSDU and you don't have plans to be big contributors in OSDU and helping with the data definitions, you can still become a member and listen and hear when you need to jump. That would be best for your companies. Finally, how do you sign up? So Rock Energy, the company I represent, we are the latest members of OSDU. We became members last week. So I know how it's done. All you have to do is you contact Mike Hickey. Mike Hickey is the open group president, so he can help you get to become a member. So this is his information, mhickey@opengroup.org, or you can visit the osduforum.org. I actually signed up online. So I went to the OSDU forum and they had a form and I filled it out. I submitted it and I paid some money and then they let me become a member. Very easy process. Finally, how do you contact me? Now that I don't work for ExxonMobil anymore, I'm making myself available, especially to operators and other companies that need to understand how to leverage OSDU and when to jump. So if you want to come into OSDU and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. This is my contact information. You're welcome to contact me anytime. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.
As we did before, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and I will come to you.
Come on. Anybody? There we go.
Hello, Lorraine. Thank you for this speech. Great speech indeed. My name is Salamat. I'm from DirectNet company. Actually, lots of things that you say resonates with me, with us, with our company. For example, you mentioned about the trust of the data. Yeah, that's the area where we focus on. We focus on production data, and this metadata that you mentioned is very important indeed. Why? Because you have to assess trustability of the data. And so we providing the digested data, we provide also uncertainty with it. Yeah. So that businesses could make good decisions on. So, but lots of great things said. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, yeah, we are facing challenges, for example, explain the importance of this kind of that data quality. And I wanted you to share what is the success in explaining this kind of things. Do people accept it immediately, or you have to do some narrative? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's really important for everyone to understand that everyone cares about the data quality. But data quality has been done so many different ways. So having standards about what the data quality looks like in a system-wide approach is what OSDU can do for us. So many people who have been involved in data quality, there's some great vendors and companies that have done a lot to help us distinguish data quality, even using AI to understand, what are the limits and the ranges for certain values that they should be in. And if they're outside of that range, it'll be flagged. So even Nathan has been able to demonstrate how even in his solution, there's opportunities to understand the data quality. We want to make sure that if you have data quality information, it's put in with the data. It's not stuck in some tool. Really important is there are data providers. So these are for seismic acquisition, CGG, TGS, SLB. There are providers of seismic data that we're working with to ensure that they can deliver directly into the cloud. But it's not just the SegWi or the ZGY file. We want all the metadata. We want the quality because they do their own quality assessments of that data, but usually they get to keep it and we only get the file. Well, in the future, we want everything. We want to be able to capture all of the good metadata, the quality assessments that were done. We want to understand what happened to the data to get it to where it was, and the processing. What were the parameters used to process the data? That needs to be stored with the data in a structured way. So happily, we are able to change the way we work by including all of this information up front. Then at the tail end, when our engineers and geoscientists want to know what polarity or what phase is this data in, they don't have to go find that PDF report and look at it. It's instantly available to them because it was one of the metadata pieces that we were able to capture in the cloud. Any other questions? In the back.
Hello, thank you very much for your shared information. I'm from perspective of security. I would like to ask whether there are some options to hold and place the storage here in Kazakhstan, because it's a matter of national security, and keeping the information abroad, brings some additional questions. Can you elaborate?
Yes, absolutely. So when I worked for ExxonMobil, we worked with Shell, ExxonMobil, BP in the OSDU forum to define what regions would be like. The reason why we created regions in the OSDU forum was so that you could basically air gap the data, that it would never leave the country, but you'd have an instance of OSDU in country. So your Minister of Energy or Assistant Minister of Energy that talked about how you wanted to develop your own cloud within Kazakhstan. You can keep all of the data in Kazakhstan. It would be running in the cloud in Kazakhstan. It would be restricted, unable to leave. But if you want, there's also opportunities to have a federated security that allows a portion of the metadata to be available. So sometimes this would be the locations of blocks that you're tendering. that you want to get that information out. So yes, it's secure, and you can decide what you want to share outside of your cloud and what you'd keep inside. And that's a special designation within OSDU that you can have multiple OSDU instances that are federated where the actual data is kept air-gapped and secure. And you'll hear more about it on our panel after lunch. There'll be great panelists that will also answer your question. All right. Any other questions?
Okay,
thank you
thank
very
you very much, Ryan. Let's give some noise to Ryan.